Tom Jackson. I'll even remember to give him the microphone this time.
Thank you. Those of you who were here for the first debate know the format. Of 2 minutes by each candidate, followed by questions. The question will go to one of the other candidates. They will have 2 minutes to respond, followed by a 1 minute rebuttal, followed by one back and forth of 30 seconds each, and then we'll make a judgment from there whether we need to continue on that same topic. We didn't decide, first of all, who was going to go first, but I think that we can do that with a flip of the coin. This is a standard issue American nickel, heads and tails. Heads, tails. John, as the challenger, you are essentially the visiting team. And the visiting team always calls the toss, all right?
Heads.
John has called heads. It is tails. Tails. Tails, you decide. You want to go first or you want to defer?
I will defer.
All right. Mr. Russell, 2 minutes.
Check. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here tonight. My name is John Russell. I'm a nationally certified acute care nurse practitioner with an MBA in health systems management. I have 33 days left to convince the people of District 5 that I'm the best person to help put America and District 5 back on the right track. I've been called tough and tenacious. What that means is I'm strong enough to withstand the personal attacks, the out-of-context quotes and misrepresentations of my positions that have already come my way when I've attended forums prior to this one. I'm running for Congress because I don't like the direction my country has taken over the past few years, and I'm angry about it. 6 years ago, America was the most respected nation on earth. The world mourned with us after the tragic events of September 11th. Then, this president, this Congress, including my opponent, squandered all that goodwill, taking us to war under false pretenses, leaving us in the dire predicament we find ourselves in today. 48 million American people are without health insurance. America's infant mortality rate is comparable to some third world nations. Some people are having to make a decision between buying food and buying life-sustaining medications. And people in Florida, Long Island, California are being forced from their homes due to the skyrocketing costs of property insurance. This president and this Congress, the same people that gave you Medicare Part D and the donut hole, have publicly stated that they will, no, I got more than that, I'm sure of that. This guy's a partisan timer. Okay, I mean, he shouldn't be timing this. This guy is the head of the Republican Party. So I call for another. Okay, I'm just telling you. You know, I mean, I know what. 2 minutes. Okay. Bottom line is, how much time do I got there, Bill? Okay. Bottom line is, if you're satisfied with the direction America has taken, if you're happy with the way the things that are going on in Congress, by all means, vote for my opponent. But if you feel that America is taking a wrong direction, that we're headed on the wrong track, and that there's not a good place for you or your children in the future, then I say, you know that you have an alternative choice, and that choice is John Russell, running to serve you, not big business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Representative Brown-Waite, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here tonight, regardless of which of the candidates that you support. It's amazing that I'm being accused of attacking someone when this is the first time that we actually have had the opportunity to debate. So I just wonder where he gets his information from. I'm Ginny Brown-Waite. Like so many of you, I grew up poor. I am a wife, mother of 2 daughters that I gave birth to, one that I adopted. I put myself through college, again, like so many of you. In 2002, when I asked for your support, when I ran for Congress, I told you that I would listen. You told me that you wanted children safer. I sponsored the Jessica Lunsford bill, got that bill passed. It is now the law of the land, so that all 50 states will have to protect our children, not just Florida. You told me that you wanted to have lower taxes. You wanted to deduct your sales tax the way you used to be able to. We got that passed and signed into law. You told me in general you wanted lower taxes, lower income tax. We got that done. The fact that Florida for so many years was held hostage in the appropriations process when it came to roads, we are now getting back a higher dollar amount for the transportation dollars we send to the federal government. Certainly, you want us to protect the borders. I want you to know, I don't support amnesty. I don't support amnesty. I also do not believe that we should share our Social Security with illegal aliens. I think that's a major difference that you're going to see and hear about during this whole campaign. I'm Ginny Brown-Waite, and I encourage you to listen and listen closely. And the timekeepers just told me that my time is up, but I won't give them a hard time.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Mr. Russell, your plan for a single-payer national health program where government panels set the remuneration for services rendered would also end the possibility of market forces and competition making medical care more cost-effective. What is wrong with the Massachusetts plan, which makes health insurance available to all through a premium support model, but also keeping competition involved?
The Massachusetts model forces people to buy health insurance and puts them in a position whereby their choices are somewhat limited. What I want to do, and what you were characterizing single-payer health care about, single-payer health care is present right now. Medicare, Medicaid, the VA, those are all single-payer health care models. And the bottom line is, I've worked with lots of physicians. What we have to do is get the insurance industry out of the business of financing health care. And I know that's troublesome for my opponent, given that insurance is her largest contributor group, and she is certainly beholden to insurance. But the fact of the matter is, we spend more than any other country in the world per capita on an annual basis, more than $5,000, to provide less. Our healthcare statistics, as I indicated in my entry speech, demonstrate just how poor some of our statistics are. We need to put the money into the bedside, not into middlemen, and the insurance industry needs to exit, and that's why I support H.R. 676, a bill that provides for a national single-payer healthcare system that over a course of 15 years would remove would cause the insurance industry to get out of the business of financing healthcare. There's also another competing plan that does the same thing using a slightly different mechanism. I don't agree with the Massachusetts model, and fundamentally because it continues with the dinosaur, which is the private insurance model. Need to get them out of here. And it's not socialized medicine, which I may be characterized as once she gets up and gives her terms there, but it's going to be socialized medicine is in fact everyone being an employee of the government, and that's not what we're talking about. That defines socialized medicine. So I stand firm, as do the doctors that I work with. They're practically uniform in their support for what I'm talking about. So we need to get people in there, change the legislature, and that would include putting some people like myself in the Congress to vote for this sort of thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Folks, we've got an hour. The more you cheer, the more it takes away from the hour. The fewer questions we get asked, and I know that we love both of these folks, but we want to get as many questions in as possible, right? Thank you very much. Let's hold our applause for the end of the show. I mean the forum. Congresswoman Brown-Waite, 1 minute.
It's amazing the things that the incumbent gets accused of. He's apparently taken up mind reading. The American Medical Association, i.e. the doctors that you go to every single day, they support me because they know that I have continued to fight against the cuts that were made back before I ever got there in the balanced budget proposal that was there. They get scheduled cuts. That's wrong. Again, your doctor, your neighborhood doctor, supports me. I believe we need to have more rural healthcare clinics, and we also need to have more funding going to county health departments. That's really where people who are uninsured go for very high quality health care. Federally qualified rural health clinics are a great resource in any community. We've increased the funding, we have sent them some construction money, and I guess my time is up. Thank you.
Mr. Russell, 30 seconds.
The AMA supports my opponent because she represents the establishment. The AMA is the establishment. That's all that's about. And my plan would make every patient a paying patient. That's what needs to happen. Uninsured patients are growing day by day. And I know some doctors won't take uninsured patients. I know because I work for a living doing this sort of thing. So the bottom line is we have to go to single payer model, put the money into the doctor's hands, people like myself, nurse practitioners, who provide the care to you. Thank you.
Congresswoman, 30 seconds.
The single payer model is the model that's used in Canada. Ask most Canadians how long they have to wait for any kind of service. It's not a model that most doctors in our country embrace, and it's not one that overall patients would want to be under.
All right, question to you, Congresswoman Brown-Waite. You have said, and I risk stepping on your line, you have said that your predecessor gave you the war in Iraq, and that you just have to pay for it. But after nearly 4 years in office, it would be fair to say that you have part ownership. What should we do about what we're doing over there?
The war in Iraq is truly a part of the overall war on terrorism. You have to remember, it's been 5 years we have not been attacked in our country. Excuse me, rude people. We have not been attacked in our country. That's an important component. I've been to Iraq. Most people have not, including my opponent. I've talked to the generals. I've talked to the troops on the ground. They believe that we should stay the course. I believe that we need to set, so, Mr. Moderator, are you going to get some control here of the hecklers?
Call the Sergeant at Arms here in a minute.
Yeah, too bad we don't have one. I believe that we need to set some deadlines for the Iraqi government. They need to have their military totally in charge. They need to also have their police force so that they are protecting the country, so that domestic tranquility can take place. We need to set those deadlines and tell them if they don't accomplish that, we will start pulling out money, we will start pulling out some troops. That's the only way that we can get the Iraqi government to do what's necessary for their country. Now bear in mind, they've only been a government for a little over a year, but they need to step up to the plate. I want to make sure that America is not considered daddy warbucks for Iraq.
Thank you. Mr. Russell, 1 minute.
Prior to September 11th, we had not incurred an attack on our soil in, let's see, about 60 years. So to say that just because we've not been attacked once again is pure balderdash. It was only through accidents of, missing the word, but the point is that the actual plan would not have even taken place had not these gentlemen like Mr. Atta and a few others who were college educated, etc., happened upon the scene. What we're talking about here as far as her visits, how much did that cost our troops? Were they very happy about having to protect the congresswoman and take away from their duties and protect themselves? I don't think so. It was a photo op, and she was very well tuned in for doing photo ops.
30 seconds, Congresswoman.
really resent any implication that visiting our troops who are over there putting their lives on the line as any sort of a photo op. It's not fun to don a 40-pound vest and go through the desert there. It is not a photo op, I guarantee you. But it was a way to show our troops that this member of Congress cares about them, talked to people from Florida, gave them the opportunity to tell me privately what they want. Visiting the troops is part of the job of a congressperson.
Mr. Russell, 30 seconds.
Congresswoman, if you care so much about the troops, why did you vote against a bonus for Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, H.R. 3289, vote number 554 on 10/17/2003? That's what I would ask, and voting to cut, rather than voting for these people to have a living wage. Our soldiers live, often their families collect food stamps. Our veterans and our current active Army and Navy, all our service men and women are not well taken care of, and that is wholly disingenuous.
The amendment...
You have asked a question, I think it deserves a response. 15 seconds.
The amendment that he is referring to, ladies and gentlemen, was an amendment over and above that which we had increased the pay for the military. And guess what? Even John Murtha voted against it.
Thank you. Mr. Russell. It's all on our minds. In the month that remains before Election Day, do you plan to make the resignation of Mark Foley and what the GOP leadership knew and when they knew it about his apparent shenanigans a part of your campaign? If the answer is in the affirmative, are you prepared to answer questions about what a Democratic takeover of the House would mean for Representative Barney Frank, the openly gay Massachusetts Democrat who, by fixing parking tickets, may have abetted the operation of a homosexual prostitution ring from his Boston townhouse by his roommate? It's a fair question.
That's a little bit of a zinger.
One of those questions would be, do you think voters in the 5th District would be eager to see Representative Frank in the House leadership?
Geez, I don't know. Mr. Frank's been around a long time. I think the bigger picture here is it's not so much of these prurient interests. It is about the big picture and who is paying attention, whether it's the House leadership currently in power, or for example, the Congresswoman is been discussed in the paper, St. Pete Times, I think it was Saturday, that she is one of her best friends is Mr. Foley. So I would submit that the Congresswoman, she's either paying attention or she's not. Human behaviors, I'm sure she's been to parties over some number of years. She's either paying attention. It's a big picture. You're paying attention to what's going on in Washington and D.C. around you. Are you paying attention to what matters in your district, what the needs are for your district? Some of the things that have come out, I've been privy to some letters that have come out of her office talking about how great the economy is. Yet there's a great disconnect between the economy in the greater country and what's happening in, for example, unemployment in 7 of her 8 counties in the district is higher than the average in Florida. 50% of the people make $8 or less an hour here. A comparable proportion of people don't have access to health care. So when we're talking about how great things are, I think you need to take your rose-colored glasses off and look at what has to be done in this district and stop being an agent if you're going to continue, and I'm here to hopefully challenge her in a way that allows her to retire. The bottom line is we got to look at what's going on in the district, how we can help our district. And as your congressman, I will be there for you, not big business. And as far as Mr. Frank goes, I don't know that he would be one that would be considered to be in the leadership, and perhaps people in District 5, that may not square wholly with them, but that remains to be seen. Let's see what happens in the election here.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. 1 minute, Congressman.
Well, of all the time, he only spent about 1 sentence on Barney Frank, didn't he? That's amazing. See, the difference is Barney Frank didn't step down, Mark Foley did. What Mark Foley allegedly did, and with the emails that came out, Mark Foley was wrong. He never should have done what he did. I'm sure everyone here has occasionally had a friend who let them down. You thought you knew them, but you really didn't. I didn't follow Mark Foley home, and he didn't follow me home. What he did in his own time, we're now finding out. Shame on Mark Foley. He did step down. And as soon as we find out who knew and when they knew it, I believe that more people may very well be stepping down. But more important, it seems to me as if somebody had these emails for, oh, let me guess, about a year and a half, why in God's name would anyone want to endanger a child and only bring them out at this time, just before the election? Think about the children who may have been exposed and or endangered.
Mr. Russell, 30 seconds.
First and foremost, while perhaps Mr. Frank was involved in violating some law of some sort, what we're talking about here is dealing with an instance where a 52-year-old male is, going after a 16-year-old boy. ABC News is the one that broke that story, not Democrats. So we aren't going to go that route here. Bottom line is, if you're that close friends with Mr. Foley, then I would think you should perceive. I know my friends. I perceive that whether my friend loves his wife or not, and I certainly could understand what the proclivities are of someone I'm acquainted with for more than 10 years. And I think we'll leave that open to your thoughts.
Are we done with that? No, 30 seconds. Right?
No, she got, didn't you start? Yeah.
No, we're done.
Yeah,
Thank
we're
you.
done.
We're done.
Good.
Right? All right then. I'm so lost. Who gets the question?
I think, didn't you get the last one? She got the last one, so I'm ready to...
No.
No, you got the
Thank
Barney
you.
Frank one.
Thank
Did I
you.
get the Barney
You
Frank
got
one
the Barney
first?
You did.
Oh, I got it
did.
start out, yes.
Furthermore, Congresswoman, on Iraq, do you regard it as the central front on the war on terror? And additionally, which part of the National Intelligence Estimate conclusion more closely reflects your position? That the American presence in Iraq creates more terrorists, or that a premature withdrawal of American forces would be seen in the militant Islamic world as a triumph and a recruiting tool?
Well, as you know, there was a portion that was leaked by a member of Congress who does not belong on the Intelligence Committee. Then the President put more of the estimate out. Then members of Congress, individual members of Congress, got to read the full intelligence report. There are certain things I cannot tell you, but based on the suggestions that you made, I believe that Al-Qaeda would be much more invigorated if we did not win in Iraq. I also think that Iran is very, very closely watching and ready to pounce at a moment's notice. Certainly Iraq, as well as Afghanistan, are very, very important fronts for us to make sure that terrorism is stamped out in that part of the country, in that part of the world rather, to make sure that they see America as a strong force, America and its allies.
Thank you. Mr. Russell, a minute.
Let's see, received this from a very serious Vietnam veteran. 61% of Iraqis approve of attacks on the U.S. forces, up from 47% in January. Iraqis' attacks are getting more sophisticated. 71% of Iraqis question want the Iraqi government to ask foreign forces to depart within a year. And by large margins, though, Iraqis believe this is a very serious situation. We have stirred up a hornet's nest in the world, and I think by all accounts, how many soldiers have died so far this month? I think it's close to 20 today, close to 20. The pace of catastrophe is accelerating, and the people that ordered this event have no dog in the hunt. They have no personal interest in this. None of their children, sons, daughters, husbands, wives are over there. This is one of the most deplorable pieces of work in history, and George Bush is going to go down as a terrible president. I know she's running away from the president as an independent voice calling herself. We're not going to allow that.
30 seconds.
Certainly, some of the people who support our troops and what we are doing in Iraq the most are the parents, are the spouses of the people who are serving there today. It's very easy to sit back here in the comfort of our homes and criticize the war. But I can tell you that the war is more than just Iraq. It is a global war on terror. And the families are very, very supportive of what we're doing because they understand. While they themselves haven't been able to go to Iraq, as I've been fortunate enough to, they hear via email from their loved ones all the time.
Russell, 30 seconds.
I don't think any of the parents of our sons and daughters and husbands, wives serving over in the heat of Iraq would look forward to going over there. I've seen more than enough on television. I spoke to a young man, a veteran of Fallujah last week, and he told me all about it. He said, we should have left in 2004. That's enough for me, and his father's here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Mr. Russell, Congress failed to come to an agreement about offshore drilling for oil and natural gas, despite analysts' agreement that America has vast deposits of both in the Gulf of Mexico and below the continental shelf. Given the vast improvements in drilling technology, why should we prevent retrieving our own energy resources?
First off, one of the major reasons why we're in Iraq right now is because of the vast deposits of petroleum used not only for fuel, but more importantly to make plastic, to make pharmaceuticals. Oil is a wonderful substance chemically. But you know, what we need to do, we need to change the will of the Congress to change the direction of a nation when it comes to energy. Energy is one of probably the most important issues that we need to get after today as a nation, as a planet, because global warming is real. The polar bears are the canary in the coal mine here. Your car will run on hydrogen, and hydrogen is in this bottle. And what happens when hydrogen is burnt in combustion, an internal combustion engine? It returns to water, combining with oxygen. We need to change the direction and have a real energy policy, and we should not be drilling in the Gulf. There's plenty of oil if we get away from burning it. And it was said in the 1940s by an authority that we shouldn't be burning up all the oil for fuel. It's just the easiest way for the oil companies to make money. And we need to change the paradigm for energy and stop letting the utility companies and the oil companies drive policy. Again, oil is a big contributor to my opponent as well, their campaign. So the bottom line is we need to put independent thinking people in Congress who will change the direction of America and in turn change the direction of this world onto a positive direction that will in fact provide an economic boon, the kinds of jobs, job creation, and a kind of world that we need to go to in the 21st century where we should be, not using 19th century fuel that is gasoline.
Congresswoman, 1 minute.
Gee, I think he drove here tonight. I don't think he walked. You know, we have not had a sound energy policy. Excuse me, I have this cold here. We have not had a sound energy policy in this country for a very long time. And just saying no is not a sound energy policy. When the Chinese are going to drill off the coast of Cuba, that tells us that we need to maximize and be able to use our energy sources. We have an energy policy finally, and you know what, folks? If Bill Clinton hadn't vetoed the Anwar's drilling when he was president. Let me tell you, Anwar would have provided enough petroleum to operate Florida for 29 years. Congress passed it, and he vetoed it.
30 seconds, Mr. Russell.
The Congresswoman is misinformed on Anwar. By any estimates, it would provide this, at most, I believe it's less than a year's worth of energy for all the destruction that would be wrought in Anwar. And she mentions Cuba. Well, what's her policy on Cuba? I have a policy on Cuba, and that is that we should relieve the economic and travel restraints on Cuba so that, yes, our oil companies could participate and perhaps have a safer go at protecting our coast from what might surely happen as other Chinese countries and having China off Cuba. Worse than the Soviet Union, I would venture. So there's mistakes on both areas there.
Where are we? Sorry, I was distracted.
I think I just got, what did I get? You got 30, I think?
Yes, you get 30.
Okay. Because we have had no energy policy, and we finally now have one as a result of the bill that passed, there are 27 new ethanol plants being built. There are 25 new nuclear power plants in the planning stage. There will be approximately 2 million barrels a day saved by synthetic fuel coal that's out there. We also are able to be able to use alternative fuels. Yes, a hydrogen car is wonderful, but you know what? Right now, a hydrogen car, a hydrogen vehicle, costs about $250,000. The secret is to get it down so that it is affordable. Because I don't think there's anybody here in this room that could afford $250,000 for a vehicle.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Question to you. Regarding tax policy, going forward, what ought to be the national priorities regarding taxes? Would it be better for Americans to tinker with the current code or to adopt an entirely new approach? 2 minutes.
Tinkering with the code is something that Congress historically has done, and that's one reason why your tax code is from the floor up to here. That's the reason why we have to all hire an accountant to do our taxes. We need to have tax simplification, and to have that tax simplification as soon as possible. Nobody likes paying their taxes, but paying taxes and keeping the government running is something that most people realize has to be done. They just don't want to pay more than their fair share of taxes. Right now, the way the system is, because we have taken so many people and put them in the 10% bracket, the top 5% of wage earners in this country are paying over 50, actually 60% of all the taxes today. We've done tax reform. I think it's time for total tax simplification.
Thank you. 1 minute, Mr. Russell.
The only tax system that we need to have in this country is a progressive income tax at the federal level. That is the fairest tax of all. The federal tax system that we have right now, because of the Bush tax cuts, which my opponent voted in favor of, our tax system is essentially flat. And that disproportionately is placing the burden of revenue generation on the backs of working people, taking a tax burden away from those with unearned income, those, the well-to-do, or get most of their income from interest and capital gains and that sort of thing. In fact, if all your income is derived from capital gains, you're only paying a 15% tax rate overall. That's it. So the bottom line is we need tax simplification. I think that's a buzzword for the fair tax, flat tax, national sales tax, moving the burden of taxation onto the backs of working people. The well-to-do have had it good enough. And I'm sure there's far more we could talk about here, but that is what my position is, and it's fair for most of the people who work for a living.
30 seconds, Congresswoman.
Sounds like class warfare to me. I don't know, any other way to put it. You're pitting people against each other. And remember, we have lowered the tax rate. We also have increased the amount that people can deduct as a child tax credit. And because we've lowered taxes, people want lower taxes. Because we've lowered taxes, it's amazing that more money has actually come into the Department of Revenue, into the federal government. Because we lowered taxes, it created jobs, therefore more people are working.
30 seconds, Mr. Russell.
In this district, more people, the people that are working, and if you go out and talk to people working at Walmart, they're working 2 and 3 jobs apiece. Americans work more than any other country on earth except for South Korea. And again, when you look at the kind of dollars that people are earning here, $8, 50% of people are earning $8 or less an hour as wage earners. What have we done? You know, one of the biggest problems we recently looked at this, and one of the problems is that people are very concerned about is that wages have not kept up with the cost of living, and we get to this insurance issue that I have a plan for, and she writes one for big business.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Mr. Russell, following on that, you assert that the Bush tax policies have shifted the burden of government payments from the wealthy to the workers. But a study put out by the Congressional Joint Economic Committee does not bear that out. The top 50% of income earners pay 96.5% of federal income taxes, while the lower 50% pay just 3.5%. The top 25% pay 83% of federal income taxes. The top 10% pay 65.8%. And those are the folks who have an adjusted gross income of about $95,000 or higher. The top 5% pay 54.4%, and the top 1% pay 34.3%. Given your position on that, I would like to hear you elaborate. Thank you.
Well, income taxes are the ones that my opponent's party like to talk about. But you know, everyone pays taxes, including those who don't earn enough to pay income taxes. Stamps are taxes. You pay taxes at the gas pump. You pay taxes on everything you buy, sales taxes. And there are taxes that are part of, you're paying a portion of property taxes when you rent. So it is disingenuous to say that the total burden of taxation, just because we're talking about one kind of tax, income tax, that the wealthy are overburdened. If you look at the economics on this, and you know, we look at how the well-to-do have done, it is in fact class warfare. It is class warfare that is being waged on working people. Remember, if you look at other statistics on income levels, the middle class is shrinking into the ranks of the poor. And while there are more billionaires than ever before, that's great, and you contribute that much of that to the tax cuts. The bottom line is, how well are Americans doing as a people? And America is being turned, is just on the brink of becoming a feudal state.
Congresswoman, 1 minute.
You know, I know this district pretty darn well. I have 8 counties and I travel throughout the entire district. People in this district believe that the economy is doing well, and that the majority of people, first of all, you have to realize the majority of people actually are retired in this district. What they want is to make sure that their investments are earning enough money. I see you brought your rude friends. One of the things that the people want to make sure of is that when they go to invest, that the capital gains are not extremely high as they were. Yes, we cut capital gains, and you know what that means? That means that more money comes into the Treasury, and B, more people will take that money and invest it, whether they're investing it in a second home or perhaps a rental home. That's what happens when you cut taxes. People have more money in their pockets, and they're happier. And when you have more money in your pocket, you spend your money at whatever service or good that you want to have.
Mr. Russell, 30 seconds.
Okay, well, all the retirees are not exactly living off their investments. A lot of people are living off their Social Security and barely getting by. Remember, this is the 5th Congressional District. There are no skyscrapers or oil wells or pharmaceutical plants in this district. what we do have, when we talk about housing, and she indeed mentioned housing, well, I've been talking to the real estate people, the title people, the mortgage people. A recession is on the way, and that's one of the other cockroaches under the rug that they're trying to keep away from you before Election Day, like the Foley incident. So there is a recession coming, and it's talked about in the paper. I think we need to take a look at what's going on and be honest with the voters of District 5.
Congresswoman, 30 seconds.
I think we all know where the cockroaches under the rugs are.
All right. Congresswoman, Florida property owners are sagging under the weight of surging property taxes and unsupportable insurance premium increases. What is the federal government's role in this situation, and what steps would you take if you are reelected?
Tom, first of all, states are the entity that regulate insurance rates. The federal government has never regulated insurance rates, and nor do most people who know insurance. They don't want the federal government to do this. States set the rates. States are the entities that the insurance companies go before. However, there is a model that we can follow, and one that I have introduced when we actually got a hearing on, and one that the chairman of the committee said is a very important bill and that he plans on putting on the agenda for next year. And that bill is one that creates a national catastrophic fund. And a national catastrophic fund is not paid for by taxpayer dollars, nor should it be. It should be paid for by the insurance companies. And that's exactly who would pay for the catastrophic insurance, the reinsurance under my bill. It wouldn't be tax dollars. That's an important differentiation. We need to make sure that the insurance companies are paying that. Now, if insurance companies loved me so much, I would have introduced a bill that would have had tax dollars paying for that. No, I believe that the insurance companies should pay for that. And by the way, insurance commissioners around the country, whether it's Florida, South Carolina, on the West Coast, those insurance commissioners support my bill because it's an excellent concept.
Mr. Russell, 1 minute.
Real estate folks and title folks and mortgage folks and ordinary homeowners support my plan, which has been on my website for the last 6 months. Her bill, which was recently passed, H.R. 5637, according to the Consumer Federation of America, establishes a new regulatory regime that is at best complex, difficult to implement, and at worst much less effective. It creates serious risk for large buyers of insurance and consumers they serve. It's been called questionable in its constitutionality. And as far as industry executives, they offer an argument for drastic change that goes well beyond altered weather patterns, focuses especially on the need for federal and state backup for insurers. Well, my plan works for consumers, not for big business, big insurance, and that's available on my website, johnrussellforcongress.com. I'm running to serve you, not big business.
Congresswoman, 30 seconds.
All I can tell you, folks, is the National Association of Insurance Commissioners wouldn't support a bill if it wasn't helpful to the consumer. If it didn't lower insurance costs. It lowers insurance costs because it provides insurance, reinsurance from right here in our country, as opposed to buying it from, oh, let's say Lloyd's of London at a very, very inflated price. Or maybe one of the companies down in the Bahamas, where at the end of the year they just distribute the proceeds to their stockholders. This is going to be money that's kept here in the United States. It's going to grow. It is not going to be distributed and spent at the end of the year, so that there can be a large pot that will grow for, God forbid, there be a national catastrophic situation.
Mr. Russell, 30 seconds.
Well, I just have to, all this stuff's available on the internet, and Consumer Federation of America, the Government Accounting Office analysis of this bill. And the bottom line is, it decreases regulatory oversight. The same sort of thing that Elliot Spitzer, who I'm sure you've heard of, up in New York State was working to combat. And these are sophisticated buyers of insurance that there's great concern over. Big companies that insure their automobile inventories, that sort of thing, car companies. What we need, this is regulatory super complexity, not regulatory simplification. It makes it easier for the insurance companies to perplex the consumer and take advantage of the consumer. And that's not what I'm about. That's friendly to big insurance. I'm friendly to people like me and you, the voters.
Mr. Moderator, he's confusing two bills. One is on homeowners insurance, the other is on surplus lines.
No, I'm just the one last
No,
one.
it's surplus lines, sir. I know the bill. I introduced it. You didn't.
Lines, right? This is surplus lines.
You're talking about surplus lines. I was talking about homeowners insurance and reinsurance. The surplus lines bill says that you're not going to take a product and ship it from one coast and have every single insurance commissioner have a little nib at it. What it says is that the state in which that product originated is going to be the state that will regulate and collect the money from that insurance company. Not a little Pac-Man going across the country.
Yes.
Okay, first off, I would encourage anyone to take a look at that bill and ask themselves, after just a mere glance, whether they thought the congresswoman wrote that bill or an insurance industry attorney wrote that bill. I'm looking at her bill right here that was passed last week, and it's 5637, I think is the number. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about working for big insurance, not on behalf of the insurance. You've had your chance to do what you could for this looming crisis. I'm asking the voters for my chance to work on your behalf, and the evidence is clear.
All right then. Mr. Russell, regarding the economy, nationally there has never been more Americans employed. Home ownership is it's a fact, dear, it's a fact.
Please,
Home ownership.
could we please respect the two candidates? They are the ones who are running for this office. Let them answer the questions, and we'll hear what they have to say. You are not running for the office. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, and you're going to make your decision on their answers. Let them answer each other.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe.
Regarding the economy, nationally there has never been more Americans employed. Home ownership is at record levels. The Dow Jones Industrials closed at yet another record high today, meaning great news for more than half of all American households, many of whom hold stocks in their 401k accounts. Crude oil prices are dipping, as are prices for natural gas and affiliated products such as gasoline and home heating oil. Interest rates remain historically low. Retail sales surged in September. A record holiday season, shopping season is projected, and tax revenues are surging, driving down the projected federal budget deficit quarter after quarter. How would you improve on those numbers?
First off, the stock market is not the economy. And I would encourage people to, is there anybody here that would take the bet that 60 days from now, say January 15th or so, that gas prices will still be going down? I know there'd be a couple people that don't pay attention, but I've watched this since I've been a kid. Okay. And the fact of the matter is, I'm certain, just by when you're statistically, that if there's more people in America, there's probably are more people working. But that is a relatively meaningless statistic when you look at it from that context. The bottom line is, yeah, more people are working more than one job, as I talked about. What is going on here, and there will be a Christmas season, but listen, if you talk to the real estate people, the housing market is in a big slump. I know a guy that's only made $12,000 this year as a mortgage broker, and he's barely stayed in the business. So this is, and he's not an unsuccessful guy. Things are changing, Every single office I go into with my insurance plan, they know what the problems are. And I talked to an individual the other day who didn't happen to be a Democrat, and you know what he said? He said, we're in for a shock that is going to be untenable. We need to look forward, and what we have to do, current accounts deficit is unbelievable, the highest in history. And there is more to this economy, again, that, you know, overinflated earnings here relative to, you know, looking at the borrowing that's going on from China. If China cuts back, decides, well, you've reached your limit, USA, on your credit card, then there is going to be a shock that will have not only social, it will have social and economic implications, the kind this country has never seen.
Congresswoman, 1 minute.
I don't know how you can deny the fact that jobs are up, home ownership is up, that interest rates are at a low, a tremendous low that people have taken advantage of in businesses. One of the things that we did in the tax bill, we allowed small businesses to expense their equipment. Previously it had been $25,000. It had been that for 30 years. We allowed businesses to expense their equipment up to $100,000 each year. You know what that did? That created jobs. Because when they replaced that equipment, they created jobs. When they bought that widget off the shelf, jobs were created. The economy is doing well, and I know it must be a terrible burden to go around saying it's not doing well, John.
30 seconds, Mr. Russell.
Well, first off, when we talk about workers, voting to block the stripping of overtime protection. I addressed the president a couple of years ago over on Anderson Road on the Fair Labor Standards Act that they were trying to revise, and you know, workers are not having a very good time of it. They're having to work more for less than ever before. The Walmartization of America, and indeed, when we talk about real estate, she is supportive, my opponent, of allowing the banks, and this is per a quote from a real estate person, the banks to get into and do the Walmartization of the real estate business, title, mortgage. I don't think that's a good thing. I support small business.
I think he has the wrong information, because I don't support Walmart getting into the real estate business, and I don't support the banks getting into the real estate business. As a matter of fact, I'm one of the few people who did not sign onto the letter approving it. So once again, he comes up with a fabrication here. But let's talk about the overtime vote bill. Do you know that 5.4 million Americans are now guaranteed overtime pay as a result of that bill? I think that was a pretty darn good vote.
Thank you. Distracted again. Where are we? Who gets
I don't know. When was that?
her reasoning while supporting the benefits of the program? What do you make of administration's efforts to protect the health and lives of Americans through such programs, as well as those included in the recent bill spelling out the rights of detainees?
You know what? I think that the average Joe six-pack wants to make sure that if there are communications between Al-Qaeda and a group of people who are in this country temporarily as visitors, legal or illegal, then people want to make sure that the government is protecting them from those people. One of the ways that we do that clearly is by eavesdropping. Now, government is not listening to you talk to Aunt Tilly. I guarantee that. They're not listening to you talk to your son back in Pennsylvania. But they are listening to the talk of the terrorists. One of the ways that Great Britain was able to catch the terrorist plot a little over a month ago was by intelligence and also by eavesdropping. I've asked several people from other countries, tell me what your country does. They say, of course we eavesdrop. We want to protect our citizens. We're just not as open about it as America is. That's the difference. You know, Al-Qaeda is never televised in what they plan on doing, but our country is such a very open country that when we discuss the eavesdropping bill, or when we discuss how the terrorist prisoners are going to be treated in the terrorist tribunals, it's out there on C-SPAN. The terrorists are planning their plans in caves. We need to know as much about what they're doing every single day. We need to know. And one of the ways we know is by having the ability to eavesdrop.
Mr. Russell, 1 minute.
HR 6166 contains a definition of wrongfully aiding the enemy, which labels all American citizens who breach their allegiance, in quotations, to President Bush and the actions of his government as terrorists, subject to possible arrest, torture, and conviction in front of a military tribunal. That's why we need to protect the civil rights of Americans. The Congresswoman and her party want you to be constantly in fear. But you know what the probabilities of death are? One of the highest thing you do, the highest probability of death or dismemberment that you do on a daily basis is get in your car. That is the most dangerous thing you do every day. They would have you thinking that there are little Arabs who are out ready to assassinate you personally on a daily basis. And this is not right. We need to change this paradigm and change the framing of this message. Let's not allow our president to make summary decisions as to whether you're a good American and she's a good American and I'm a bad American.
So let me get this straight. Apparently, you don't want us to find out if calls are being made into our country by terrorists, because from who knows where, that if terrorists are making calls into this country, I guarantee you it's not to call for a Domino's pizza, John. And I think you're very naive in believing that. The information you just pulled up, all I can see from the top of it is BS alert, and that's exactly what it is. It's BS alert.
Mr. Russell, 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, it's the underground that's still alive and well. The internet is the only real source of free, unadulterated speech. And sure, that's what it's called, BS alert. There's a Daily Kos, what's that? All this stuff is out there because people know that they aren't able to communicate as freely as they once were because of things like you're talking about in this freedom of speech. And I've been party to dealing with how free speech has been squelched. When the president came to Legends Field in 2001, I was there and I watched how free speech was selectively allowed.
Mr. Russell, Florida, we are getting toward the end of this thing here. We're going to have to wrap it up pretty soon. Florida's 5th District has no shortage of gun owners, the vast majority of them law-abiding citizens who keep firearms for protection, for sport, and for hunting. What federal restrictions should there be on such firearms and such folks?
I think there's plenty of laws on the books right now. I own a 22 and a shotgun, and rarely have the opportunity to use them. But I'm certainly not out there to take law-abiding citizens' guns away. A friend of mine has probably 40 guns. He's a collector of antique military weapons. So I don't have a problem with it as long as you're not psychotic. So and I will underline the fact, though, that I have rounded with the trauma team at Tampa General Hospital for a whole summer in my clinical experiences to become a nurse practitioner. And believe me, I know how things, people that perhaps might be better served by not having firearms, but that's a law enforcement matter. I'm here to say that I support fully the Second Amendment, and I don't expect to be involved in trying to make any changes to it.
Congresswoman, 1 minute.
This is something on which we obviously agree. I support the Second Amendment. I believe that I should have the right to have a carry permit. I also believe that I should have the right to have a weapon in my home for self-defense. Certainly the various laws that have passed, nobody wants to violate the Second Amendment. That's what it's all about. It's not really about law enforcement. It's about the Second Amendment that gives us that right.
You got any follow-up on that, Mr. Russell?
Well, I think I'm pretty clear. You know, sane people that have guns in their possessions. I mean, they're like some guns are like a Rolex watch or my grandfather's Hamilton Railway special watch. They're wondrous pieces of engineering, and I think I've had some of my, a lot of fun back when I was a kid. I used to go trout fishing and trout wort biting, and we do a little hunting on the side or a little target shooting. So I think guns are, it's a fun hobby. I don't play with them too much, but you know, let's all just abide by the law and enjoy our firearms responsibly.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. You got anything to add to that, Congresswoman?
No, sir.
Then I will give you a shot at one last question, then we'll go to closing statements. A member of the audience wants to know whether you would be willing to vote to bring back the fairness doctrine.
I assume that they're talking about the fairness doctrine in the media?
Regarding the media, yes.
Okay. It's very difficult to speculate on something that's not right there in front of you. I believe in the fairness doctrine. I don't have a problem with it. I think that equal time should be given. So, you know, if it's just that and not having, you know, 35 cabooses added onto it, if it's clean, yes, I would vote for it.
Mr. Russell?
I think a return to the pre-elimination of the fairness doctrine is fundamental to our democracy if it's to continue intact. We must be able to have a discourse in this country that allows for everyone's opinion to be aired. And right now, the dominant opinions, inaccurate though they often are. I listen to Rush Limbaugh. I listen to the Schnitt Show. I listen to them because I have to know what they're saying. So when I come into a venue like this and to understand my opposition, and the bottom line is we need to get the truth out there. And we're never going to have the truth out there unless we return to a state where everyone's voice can and will be heard.
Obviously, the emergence of the several radio shows and radio stations that are out there, one of which recently filed for bankruptcy, clearly says that, you know, there is the ability to go out and express a view other than perhaps a conservative view. So the fact that a particular ultra-liberal station didn't make it, I think is something that's a free market. They were there, they tried it, they couldn't keep advertisers. You know, and Rush Limbaugh, you know, I'm glad you listened to him because I very seldom do, but he certainly has an audience. He's entitled to an audience. I don't think every audience member believes everything that he says, nor anything that the ultra-liberal group says on the radio.
Mr. Russell, 30 seconds.
Well, I think if you look at the statistics on right-wing conservative, ultra-conservative radio versus, as well as television, there's a considerably uneven framework here. What I'd like to say here is that
Could it be that it reflects America?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It doesn't reflect America, and that is laughable on its face. Laughable on its face. And yes, I appreciate the comments of the Congresswoman. Maybe that's why District 5 has such a dearth of representation over the past 4 years for the people who live and work in District 5. Right. That's what we're here for. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the people who live and work here. And I guess we're going to get our closing remarks here shortly, so I'll defer.
Thank you. Congresswoman Brown-Waite, you deferred on the coin flip. You want to go final here or next to final? With your closing remarks. You want to go now or after Mr. Russell?
I'll go final.
All right, Mr. Russell. 90 seconds.
We've heard a little bit here tonight about our position, certainly only a portion that exists. I'd like to point out to the folks here again that you have a choice this year, and this may be, in fact, a final opportunity to save America from a destination that we do not want to achieve. Fact of the matter is, the policies that have been put in place and voted in place by the Congresswoman that have put us where we are today. She votes with the President 89% of the time, votes with the Republican caucus 94% of the time. Now, I don't see a couple of people here tonight, but I do know a couple of people that I can bring to bear that will tell you that the Congresswoman often asked, or at least they witnessed her when asked how she was going to vote. She said, well, whatever the leadership tells me to do. I want to think independently, make my choices as your congressperson on your behalf. I want to work to serve you. And so do the veterans. The veterans want to be represented, not used as props, as they so often are with the Congresswoman, and I can bring people to bear on that. I thank you for your time. I ask you for your vote. If you don't think America is going in the right direction, then you do have a choice this year. If you like the status quo, vote for her. But my thinking is, and my reading is, talking to thousands of people, there is a time for a change, and that change is here today. I ask you for your vote. Make sure you get out and vote, and encourage everyone else to do as well. Thank you.
Congresswoman, 90 seconds.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for moderating this panel, and I certainly appreciate the use of the facility here at the great community college that we have here. You know, I believe in asking your neighbors. You can ask your neighbors, for example, if they're doctors, and they'll say yes, their organization supports Ginny Brown-Waite. You can ask the veterans, and they will tell you that the VFW PAC supports, Veterans of Foreign Wars, folks, supports Ginny Brown-Waite. Ask law enforcement. Sheriff White supports Ginny Brown-Waite. Ask seniors, and they'll tell you that 60 plus supports Ginny Brown-Waite. If you believe and your neighbors believe in low taxes, National Taxpayer Union supports Ginny Brown-Waite. On Second Amendment, right to gun ownership, the NRA supports Ginny Brown-Waite. I have worked long and hard for people in this district. I don't use a BS alert as my colleague does. What I do is I get results. I don't offer rhetoric. I get results for the people of the 5th Congressional District. When you go to vote, please remember Ginny Brown-Waite on November 7th. Thank you very much.
I want to thank both of the candidates for being here tonight, and I do thank the audience for quieting down and letting them answer the questions. So again, thank you for being here tonight.
Hey, how are you? Good to meet you.